Steve, my good man, how the devil are you?
I'm good, buddy. I'm very good. I'm doing battle with the power cable at the minute, so I'm just, wrapped up in
You looked a
stuff.
little bit lost like a cat there. You know when you've got a laser pen for a cat and they're just all over the show. That's a bit how you
Hmm.
looked just then. I was like, I'm sure he knows we're about to start, but he looks very confused.
That's because I looked away, the cable fell behind the desk and then got stuck. So I was kind of stuck without being able to turn my head because I've got the headphones on. So I gave it the old little jolly pull and away she came. Um,
Sounds like you're talking about something else now, Steve.
Innuendos.
How has your weekend and stuff been, Steve?
Weekend was really good, mate. It was a really good weekend, this one for me. I went fishing, which is lovely. Got out for some chill time, watched the racing on the bank, or watched the free practice and qualifying on the bank, which was lovely. And then came back quite early for Sarah to go to football. And but then we had a full cracking day of racing. Really good day of racing. But how was
It
your
was a
weekend?
cracker, mate. Yeah, my weekend's been more popping. Oh, we're just getting ready for the hostel to open, man. The hostel opens 2 days from now, so that'll be
Yeah,
Thursday. It hasn't been open for like 950 days because of the old COVID,
nice.
so quite a lot to do. The last couple of days has just been slamming it to try and get stuff done. I'm also trying to balance obviously all my other work and stuff at the same time.
Yeah,
So I've had almost zero free time, Steve, but I managed to carve out the entirety of Sunday. Ooh, I've just scratched the nice newly painted wall.
that'll be all right.
Right, well, we won't tell anyone about that. The hostel owners don't listen to the show anyway. That's fine. But yes, I carved out all of Sunday for the racing. So I watched. I say all of the motorbikes. I watched MotoGP. I watched Formula One.
Mm.
There was a Moto America round that I didn't watch. I believe there was World Superbikes as well, right? And I haven't.
There
I
was
don't
World
know what
Supers,
happened.
yeah.
I haven't got round to watching that yet.
It
Hopefully, I
was.
will in the next day or two.
Yeah, World Superbikes was belting. What little I saw of Moto America was cracking. Um,
Yeah.
it was just an awesome weekend of racing, mate, all round. I didn't watch any of the cars because, well, the cars. Um,
It's four wheels. Not interested.
no, but well, you know me, you know my feelings. Yeah, it was just all round for racing. From what I hear, Formula One was good. From like all the bikes are good. Everything. BSB starts this weekend as well, so we've got that
Oh,
to enjoy.
excellent. Where's BSB?
Silverstone.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and start Silverstone this weekend, so everything's now in full flow.
Yeah, we're flat out
Lots
now.
going
All the
on.
racing's back, isn't it? It's getting quite hard already to keep up with. And my podcast feed is just so full of racing podcasts. I'm like, Jesus, I don't know how I ever had time to listen to anything or do anything else.
Now, this is what like when I'm at work, I struggle. It's like
Yeah.
I want to listen to other stuff, but I just can't because I always have to get up, wander away, or go talk to one of the trainees and talk them through stuff. And I'm like my head's always switching off, and I keep finding I'm like, well, I have to look at like my phone to see what the time is before I go away, and it's like skip it back. Oh, just don't get the time. There's not enough hours in the day to listen to all the racing podcasts. So yeah, it's annoying. Work
So
is a real
essentially,
problem.
anyone that is listening to this one, when bloody thanks for sticking with us, really, because we know how
Yes,
many there are in the world now.
yes, there is a lot. One for each, well, more than one for each race series. So thank you
Yeah,
for choosing
exactly.
us.
But the whole MotoGP weekend, Steve, was absolutely banging. All three races were
Mm,
cracking, mate. I really want to dive in and start talking about it. So shall we just
let's get
head
straight
first
into
into
it.
this one?
Yep, both feet. Let's go.
Good stuff. So I'm Tim, he's Steve, and this is for the love of MotoGP. Now, if you are new to MotoGP, guys, whether you have just discovered the sport, whether you've just discovered the MotoGP podcast, and you're like, what is this weird two-wheeled sport going on here? Whether you've just watched MotoGP Unlimited and you want to know what the sport's all about,
Mm.
we've got a show for you. It's the introduction to MotoGP 2022. Scroll back through your podcast feeds. You will find it there. It tells you everything you need to know to start enjoying the sport that we all love. We cover the teams, the riders, the bikes, the rule sets, the storylines going in. We talk a little bit about flags, but you can ignore that because we got that wrong. And that's all I'm saying on that this week, Steve. So let's keep
That was
going, shall
a
we?
little bit embarrassing, but we'll roll with it. It's in there now, so it's out in the ether. But yeah, just look up the real rules online.
Yeah, exactly that. And before we get any further, Steve,
Mm,
I forgot to open a drink as we started. So I've got a can here,
sacrilege.
which I'm just going to Because
Nice.
is it for the love of MotoGP without the sound of a can opening?
Well, we should be sponsored by an alcohol company, because Foster's.
Except it's not Foster's today. That was actually a can of Coke, Steve. But it's because I'm back on the cupboard booze. So I found half bottle of brandy. Not brandy, that's Bacardi. Half bottle of Bacardi I need to get through, as well as a mini Jägermeister I had earlier, Steve, during our very special show that we just recorded.
Oh yeah, very teaser.
Yes, that was a teaser. But we'll get into more of that at the end of the show, Steve, because before we go any further, my friend, we need to take a trip to Correction Corner.
I need to take a trip.
Steve needs to take a trip to Correction Corner. So, let's play the jingle.
Go for it.
Correction Corner! Rightio, Steve. Correction Corner it is. Do you want to take this one, my friend? And I'm just going to sit back with a smug look on my face.
You do look very smug at the fact that I'm going there on my own. But yeah, this is...
That's because normally it's me, mate. It's normally me spouting off some bullshit that I'm convinced is right. But for once, I just agreed with you. You're the one that said it.
It was my bad, yeah. So last week I spoke about the Moto America and the tracks. And my geography, it turned out, was not that great. So I forget exactly where I said. Was it Road America?
Yeah, you were talking about Road America.
Yeah, but I confused that with Road Atlanta. So George got in touch via email and pointed out my mistake, and pointed out that Road America is actually in Wisconsin, and this is probably where I was thinking of, and he's right. It is where I was thinking of. So
I love the and he is right. That's why we featured it in Correction Corner. Yeah,
yeah,
if he was wrong,
yeah.
It probably wouldn't have made it to this bit of the show.
I did do my damnedest. I was on Google Maps. I was like, no, he's wrong. I was like, he's American, he's wrong. And I was on Google Maps, and then I realised, no, he's actually right. So I had to eat my hat. But there we are. Yeah, my geography is not that great outside of, like 10 feet around me.
Yeah, outside of North Norfolk, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm a little bit sheltered. I know that if I look north, pretty much that America's left. And
that does the job, mate. That's all you need to know. You look north, America's on your left, Europe's on your right, and aside from that, that's most of it covered, isn't it? Like,
yeah, sorted.
Fine.
Yeah, sorted. So yeah, my bad. I got that very wrong. Stand corrected. But yeah, awesome tracks. I just need to learn exactly where they are.
But at least you got them in the right country. That's the important thing.
I did. Yeah, I know. Well, Laguna, California. Got that right.
Hey.
Got that right.
Anymore?
No, I'm not going to even hazard
one, Steve. This entire show is a review for one.
Yeah, Costa, Austin, Texas. I was going for other tracks. I was trying to come up with something new. No, we're not going to. I'm not even going to hazard a guess at where any others are. So we will stick with this one.
I wonder if there's any tracks in, and there must be, mustn't there? Is there any good racetrack somewhere like Alaska that's just a weird place anyway, and it's just so far removed from everywhere else? Or Hawaii, another state that's so far removed. Like, maybe there's not racing on Hawaii on like a big international scale, but I mean, Alaska's plenty big enough to have full racetracks, but the weather's probably a bit shit most of the year, actually, that said. Oh, they do snow racing and shit.
That's what I was going to say. They, I have seen some of this on the telly, just like programs where they have these crazy races, just with tracks cut into the ice.
Yeah.
And the snow's kind of bury it up to make a natural, crash barrier, which just look insane. It looks so epic and amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to have a go.
Yes, certainly, mate. That would be amazing. Anyway, Steve, off of Alaskan ice racing, and back to MotoGP, my friend. We've got a lot to cover. All the racing was banging, so we get started on it?
Let's go straight for it, buddy.
Good stuff. So we will go through our normal run, Steve. We're going to run through the top 5 finishers in Moto 2 and Moto 3, and then we will dive fully into our MotoGP race review.
Let's go for it.
So, Moto 3 looked a bit like this, Steve. And by a bit like this, I mean exactly like this. 5th place was Dennis Onchu. 4th, Ayumi Sasaki. 3rd, Andre Mino. 2nd, Dennis Foggia. Now, this top 4 have been making their presence known this year.
They have, yeah. These guys are really like just waving at us, going, look at us. They are always there now. I mean, Joe Masia, I forget how many points he's got. So he had two DNFs, and this is his first finish, I think.
This is the fourth round, isn't it? So I think yes, I think you're right. These might be his only points, Jeremy Massia. I think he might have had one finish outside the points and two DNFs, maybe, but I could be making that up completely, Steve.
Was this the fourth round?
Yeah. Yes?
Third.
Nah, it's the fourth, isn't it? Because we're back to Europe now. We had Qatar, Indonesia, Argentina, Texas.
Oh, yeah, Indonesia. I forgot Indonesia. I was like, hang on. We haven't had three. I'm used to go straight to Argy.
Yeah, you had me question it then. I was like, fuck, I'm sure there's been four.
Yeah, I was on the old calendar. I was like, hang on.
Yeah. Okay, Jeremy Massia scored 34 points this year.
Yeah.
So he's obviously scored twice, well, at least twice.
Yeah, first proper points haul. But yeah, these guys are really making themselves known.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what was nice about this Moto3 race, they kept the weaving down to a minimum.
Actually, I don't know. Did you see the incident was it free practice or qualifying? I think it was free practice. And I can't remember the fella's name. I had it all written down earlier, and I was like, "I've got so much shit to talk about. We're not going to have time for this." But now I can't remember the chap's name. But one of them had a nasty weave on the straight, had a crash, busted his wrist, I think. So was out.
I remember that. But
even Dennis Onchu was a little bit dodgy in places in the race.
He was in the race, yeah. That little coming together with another rider. But generally, on the grand scheme of things, they weren't all weaving all over the place down this straight. You know, it was the odd isolated incident. It wasn't the massive pack weaving where they're all over the place.
No, that's a fair point. But the racing was absolutely banging.
It's incredible. These Moto3 guys, to be on at the end, because they changed the running order. Was it Moto2, MotoGP, Moto3? To be on at the end, to finish on that was incredible. Because these guys really do put on a show every week. They're fast. Yeah, they're really feisty. They get racing, and they worry me sometimes, which adds that little element of spice.
You're like your adrenaline spiking because you're terrified for them.
Yeah, because they all break. Suddenly 5 wide going to the last corner. You're like, shit.
Yeah, you're like, this ain't gonna work, is it? Like someone's getting hurt here.
Yeah, someone's going to hospital in this, and somehow they all make it round the corner. You're like, how the bloody hell did you do that? And they get to the next corner and do it all again. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's quite fantastic, mate. When it's clean racing and good racing like this, it's fantastic to watch.
It is one of we are talking about the premier or pinnacle motorcycle racing, all 3 classes, but this will put your heart in your mouth more so than any other racing series. Even MotoGP, you can have a little break. The heart rate can come right down in MotoGP. In this, no chance.
Yeah, quite.
You know, cardiac arrest all day long just rewatching it.
Okay, Steve, moving on then. Talking of another banging race here, Moto2, man.
Yes.
The top 5 in Moto2 looked like this. Jorge Navarro was in 5th. 4th place was Marcel Schrotter. 3rd was Jake Dixon. 2nd, Iagura. And 1st, Tony Arbolino. This was an interesting race, man. We saw Celestino Vietti crash from 2nd place, I think. We saw Alan Canet crash from the lead. And that kind of promoted Tony Arbolino up. That promoted Jake Dixon to the podium. It was just a sort of a weird race at the front, but just this unexpected podium, man. I didn't expect a Tony Arbolino, Iagura, and Jake Dixon podium anytime soon.
I don't think a lot of people did. I mean, a lot of people were talking about Jake Dixon because he looked fast. He looked really good all weekend.
And Iagura's looked very good this season, and Tony Arbolino has showed flashes of potential in the past. I just didn't expect to see the 3 of them together on a podium. I thought maybe separately they'll get a podium each over the season, potentially, but not all 3 at the same time. It's sort of like blowing my tiny mind.
Yeah, it was a weird situation, but there was a lot of fallers, like you say, from the front, Vietti, Canet. So in some ways, they were handed this a little tiny bit. It's not taking anything away from them, but if those guys had stayed on, they wouldn't be on the podium.
You know the rules, Steve. To finish first you must finish.
Exactly. So if you're going to drop it, you are not going to win it.
Exactly.
So these guys did the right thing, rode a good race, and just brought it home. But during the race, everyone was talking about Marcel Schrotter and how he carved his way through that pack.
He was on a hard tyre, wasn't he? Everyone else was on the mediums. I think he was on the hard. So towards the end of the race, he had an advantage, but it wasn't quite enough.
No, it was just that initial part of the race, he just couldn't make it work. So 2 or 3 more laps, we always say this, 2 or 3 more laps, and he'd have won it. He probably would have done. But yeah, it's just that first initial bit. He couldn't get the heat in the tyres. It wasn't up to speed. It happens. So,
Yeah.
but he carved his way a long way up the field.
He
And
did
just
very well towards the end, certainly.
he did
It was a
very,
decent
very well.
strategy. Like, he's not had to finish this good in quite a while, regardless. So.
No, not at all. But yeah, just again, a cracking race. Like you say, we saw a lot of the leaders fall, which every time one fell, we just, oh my God, what have you done?
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, brilliant race.
And we saw championship protagonists falling all over the place. Aaron Canet,
Yeah.
Tristan Vietti, two real championship protagonists for the year.
Yeah.
We saw Chantra go down.
Yeah,
and
we
he's
saw that.
been very high in the championship. He took Sam Lowe's with him.
Yeah, that was a crazy, crazy crash. What was it, 5 guys go down
Yeah, quite a few.
It was a lot. It was a very strange but awesome race.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it a lot.
And that's just true of the whole weekend, mate.
Yeah, that pretty much just sums the whole lot up.
Yeah, and mate, was it not wonderful to see Cambobier score a pole at home?
Oh God, I was watching it, and I'm just like, all the shots were in the American racing team garage. I see like John Hopper in there, and all those guys celebrating. Really good on them. They worked hard. It's always nice to get your hometown hero on pole.
Yes.
This guy did an awesome job. The whole team did an awesome job to get him there. Just a shame.
Just such a shame. Oh
I
my God, I
know.
couldn't believe it when it appeared on the screen when he crashed out. And was it the very last corner?
Second from last, something like that. I just sat there.
So painful.
Mate.
From 4th place as well, like his best ever finish. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck Cam, man.
2 or 3 laps to go. Okay.
It would have been less
2
painful.
corners. Yeah, it would have been far less. 2 corners. I'm like, oh my God.
I mean, and this is painful for us. We're not even American, Steve. And this
No.
was painful to the viewers even outside of the US. It must be more painful for viewers in the US. And fuck, imagine how Cam feels. Jeez, man.
He will be gutted, but he's a professional. He will be back at Portimao next weekend, raring to go again. Spurred on, hopefully, absolutely dogged determination.
He's just shown what he can do, man. And he showed
Exactly.
us last year at Texas. Once he knows the tracks. Oh my God. And he's been in this is his 3rd season now, right?
I think it's his 3rd season, and I forgot how.
Cam, it will be his 2nd season. It's only his 2nd season.
Yes, it is.
Because Joe Roberts has been there for longer.
Yeah.
Yes, it's only his 2nd season. He's, now been to the tracks. He's learning the tracks, but he's still racing against guys who have been at these tracks for their entire lives almost.
Look, they've been doing it a lot longer. We forget he was in Moto America for 6-7 years.
He's a 5-time Moto America champion, man. He's in his late 20s, isn't he? Like he's not a young rider that's come out of nowhere. Like this guy has been working hard, but just on circuits that aren't quite like these circuits.
Yeah, that's the only sort of downside. But he's learned them. He's got that, and like you say, he's now shown what he could truly do, which is great. So hopefully, this is just the little spark that he needs to really shoot him on.
Yeah, exactly.
This will turn him
crossed.
turn him in from a mid-pack racer to a pointy-end racer. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Aye.
So, Steve, then, my friend, let's dive into the MotoGP review.
Let's go for it, buddy.
So, before we start, Steve, I was very confused. The 500 GP kept just flashing up on my screen all weekend. I'm like, what the fuck is this graphic about? I, somewhere along the line, had missed the fact that this was the 500th Grand Prix race.
Yep, in the Premier class.
So this is... Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't stretch back as far as the very early years.
No, it's since Dorna took over, isn't it?
Oh, is that it? Is that how it's worked out?
Yeah, I think it's
Right.
500 rounds since Dorna took over.
And this is 500 Premier class races, isn't
Yes.
it? Not
Since
mostly, not including the other Grand Prix.
No, so it's what it is now, sort of thing. So
Okay. That all makes sense. Because it sort of blew my tiny skull, Steve, that I watched that thing pop up and it was like, who won the 100th, the 200th, the 300th, the 400th races, and who's going to win the 500th? And it blew my mind that Valentino Rossi won the 200th Grand Prix and almost made it all the way to the 500th Grand Prix.
Yeah, well, let's think, we're 4 rounds in, so he made it to 496.
That's absolute madness, man.
Yeah.
Like the guy's career and just how many wins has he had actually on that note? in the
Was
Premier
he?
class.
Uh,
It's 100 and something, is it not? No, it's 100 and
199.
something total wins. No, it was 199 podiums.
Oh,
Uh,
115 wins, isn't it?
is that Grand Prix wins or Premier class wins?
Can't remember off the top of my head.
No, I mean me neither. Regardless, it's going to be a huge number. So
Oh, it's
we
going to be
say
massive.
even if it's 100 wins in the Premier class, it's I don't know what it is, but 100 that's like 20% of all of the races.
Yeah.
That's mad. What a stat.
I know. It just shows the longevity of his career. He's just like, I'm here, I'm staying, I've grown roots. Let's go for it. Let's
Yeah,
have
it's
at it.
just bonkers.
I
so he's won 89 Premier class races.
Madness.
It's still almost 20%. Like Michael Schumacher nearly has won 10% of all Formula One races. Lewis Hamilton has also nearly won 10% of all Formula One races. Valentino Rossi's won nearly 20% of all Grand Prix since Dorna took over, which I guess is a slightly different stat. But regardless, that's such a huge number.
It is a massive number and one that it will be hard to match. I mean,
Well, I mean, no one's ever going to match the 20% figure, but then Valentino Rossi, that obviously figure is going to get smaller as every race happens from now on.
Yeah. But yeah, the guy's been around forever. He is a fossil.
Yeah, certainly. I wonder at Giacomo Agostini's prime how many Premier class races he'd won. Because I bet there was a time when he'd won like 80%, well, probably not 80%, but 50% of them or something mad.
Oh, probably because these guys back then used to race in multiple categories. So
yeah, that's a good point. So that kind of skews the numbers somewhat.
yeah, if they just stuck to one series, it'd probably be far less. But obviously, sometimes we saw them winning like the 50cc, the 125, and the 350cc championship all in 1 year.
Yeah.
And you're thinking if there's 15 rounds of each, suddenly you've got 45 races in 1 year.
Oh, it definitely wouldn't have been 15 rounds of each. There'd have been times where it was like 6 or 7 rounds of each.
Oh, yeah.
But I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Just a number for the hell of it. But yeah, it's that weird situation where they were just racing in more than one series, which blows my mind.
Yeah, it's weird to think about now, isn't it? Like there was a time, and actually a time not all that long ago, when these professional racers, whether it be four-wheel races, two-wheel races, would race multiple classes just constantly.
Yeah, I mean, you go out in the morning, see one of these guys on the 50, he's back out at lunchtime on the, let's say, 125. Now he's early afternoon on the 350. You're like, oh, he must be knackered. Probably smoking a fag at the time.
Oh, definitely. And, you're just swilling like the vodka around.
Yeah, chugging a beer. It's like, sorted, let's go. Like,
the old Barry Sheen, James Hunt way of racing. Just, a couple of tokes on a joint, I'll have a swig of a beer, have a quick cigarette, I'm away.
Yeah, exactly. All happy days. Nuts, mate. Absolutely nuts.
So, Steve, Texas. Let's dive back in here. It was the 500th GP here. The circuit, a lot of the resurfacing job we know was being done. The resurfacing job between, was it turns 2 and turns 12 or something? I can't remember exactly where it was. We've spoken about it before.
Yeah, 10 or 12, one of the two. In that back section.
And it looked good, man.
It did look good.
That resurfacing job looked nice. There were still a couple of bumps, but
there's
generally
one big one at
nothing
turn
like
10.
there was. Yeah, one big one at turn 10. But aside from that, man, nothing like there had been before.
No, they've really done a good job of smoothing out these bumps. We've seen a lot of chatter on the front end in the past. Where these guys are really having a lot of trouble. The hole in the braking area, that's all gone.
Oh, mate, do you remember that weird, was it Johan Mir last year? Had that horrible fucking almost crash because he just hit ripples, just those ripples all the way into one of the corners.
Yeah, I mean, Marquez had a similar almost crash, but that's because he pinned it and just whipped the back out. But yeah, Mir
we'll talk about Marquez, mate, in this race, but the man was on another level. But we'll get to that.
He'd been smoking something. Anyway, yeah, Mir last year, he hit those bumps, just could not control the bike. Had no braking, had no stability, and it was like, well, the bike's going to do what it wants just because of these bumps.
And it's that moment that you've probably experienced riding. I know I've certainly experienced it before, where you have a moment where it just goes and you're like, I'm a passenger. Literally nothing I can do.
I'm along for the ride.
Yeah.
Let's settle in and just enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just try and minimise how much this is about to hurt.
Yeah, don't tense. Don't tense.
Yeah. Don't tense and don't look at anything hard.
Yeah. Oh, look, tree.
But there was the new track surface looked amazing. There was a crossover point though, clearly, and it sort of amazed me. And I know this is something that happens, but it amazed me how much tarmac ages just visually. Like this brand new ribbon of black tarmac, and then the tarmac that has been there less than a decade looked almost grey. Well, it was grey in comparison. Like it's so faded, and I know that's bleaching and wear, and I know why that's happening. But it amazed me that it happens in less than a decade. Just the difference in the colour, man.
Yeah, but you don't notice that transition over time, do you? Because we go so often that it just becomes that natural bleed between time where it's just like, oh, this just looks a bit different. And you know, it's like when you try to grow your hair out and you don't notice it because you look at yourself in the mirror every day, but you see that person once a month, you go, damn, your hair's grown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we see it so often, we're just not noticing this fade. And like you say, it's only when you put that new ribbon of like smooth, lovely new tarmac next to it that you really notice the difference.
Yeah.
But it did look like a nice service, and it's definitely improved the racing around here.
Yeah, certainly. There was clearly a crossover in grip, though, wasn't there, between the old and the new? Like the new had a lot of grip, and while the old it still had good levels of grip, there was a clear difference between the two.
Oh God, yeah, there's a defining difference. But if they can just, I don't know, nurse the old parts of the track and then maybe resurface them in time, then we'll be on for a really nice track here.
Yeah, and I mean, look over a lap. Like, they broke the current race lap record. So the fact is that the tarmac is good enough in the new bit that they are breaking records that have stood since 2015.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't take a lot to resurface the track enough to really smash some records. So
it's actually a really good example of what a track can do when they've got a lot of money behind them for a resurfacing job. I think this was an excellent job by Kota. None of us, well, I didn't actually. I think you were quite optimistic. I was unconvinced by their plans to repair this circuit, but I think actually this is an amazing job, and this should maybe be held up as just a prime example of what a circuit can do when it puts its mind to it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're going to see a lot of circuits that are going to need resurfacing, like Indonesia. This is the place to come get your reference. You know, although it's Texas, it's probably not quite as hot as Indonesia, but
I bet actually during the summer, I bet it is as fucking hot. It's just probably not going to be quite as humid, and they're not going to have the same horrible monsoon season. But I bet it's just as hot.
Probably. It's just not going to get that kind of transitional weather from one extreme in 5 minutes. It's just going to take a little bit longer. But this is definitely the place to judge your resurfacing work at. Take this place as what you are going to judge yourself on.
Yeah, certainly.
Well, hopefully they'll listen and we'll do that.
And hopefully Kota are listening, Steve, and they're like, God, these two have been so nice to us. Maybe we should get them out passes for next year.
That would be fantastic. You know, we will sing their praise. We'll, free stuff. We'll do a lot of things for free stuff.
I'll do anything for free stuff, Steve. I'm not proud. Like, if it's free, I'm going to do a lot for it.
I have limits, but yeah, we'll test them.
Oh, so you have limits, but they're soft limits here. If you're willing to test them, it means there's not a hard limit, Steve. And I'm happy with that. That's what I like. Everyone's got a price. I'm just saying, my price is low. That's all we need to say.
My price is medium, but negotiable.
Steve's price. So the comparison here is I'm good with a KFC family bucket, but Steve wants like a proper Michelin star meal. That's the difference in our price.
Yeah. I want to sit down. I want to be romanced.
Anyway, because this is going to spiral, Steve. So before one last thing I'd like to talk about before we dive into the full race review. And this was and I assume it's only people from the UK will have seen this, but this Kenny Roberts Sr. interview that was on BT Sport before the race, before the MotoGP race.
Absolutely priceless.
Oh my God, it was one of the biggest car crash interviews I've seen, but one of the funniest things, because The fella didn't look like he knew where he was, and he looked a bit confused as to why he was holding a microphone. And then he just starts swearing. He pretty much starts insulting all the other riders he used to compete against. He's just going, and there's a moment at the end where he swears for the third or fourth time. And bearing in mind, this is just normal TV in the UK. Like, there was no apology all the way through, which I appreciate as a viewer, because as someone that uses foul language all the time, I really don't care when I see it coming out of the TV. But it's still funny every now and again, because you see the faces, everyone's faces, they're like, oh no, I can't believe he said that. But there was no apology. He's swearing away. It was a wonderful interview, but Jesus, man, it was one of those interviews that's like the what's the Guy Martin interview again at COTA, funnily enough.
Yes, it's COTA that attracts these crazy people. But yeah, I didn't see it live. It was only when you messaged me I was like, Christ, are you watching this Kenny Roberts interview? I was like, no.
Yeah, I was like, Steve, are you watching this live? Like, mate, this interview,
train wreck. But what I loved all the way through it, Sylvan stood in the middle, just like with this expression where he's like, fucking glad Susie's next to him and I'm out the way. And then you've got Hodgie even further back, right at the back, just pissing himself laughing. And just not getting involved. Yeah, just not getting involved. He's like, go on, dig yourself a hole, sunshine. And then right at the end, just as they turned off, Susie was saying like her outro piece and just shot Kenny at this look of sheer death.
It just was like really funny.
Stare now, because we see these guys on telly as these constant professionals, and you get the odd little look. They were always smiley and chatty, they have to put on this persona. But hers broke for a second, because you could tell how pissed off she was with him, and it was just this look of pure death, just sending him, straight 6 foot under. I was like, oh, Kenny, good luck, son.
Well, yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Brilliant. It was a lot of fun. It was one of those interviews that you definitely do not want to be that interviewer, but Jesus, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it was fun. If no one's watched it, for God's sake, look it up online. It'll be on YouTube somewhere. It's hilarious. Bless him.
I'd also actually, you mentioned Sylvain Guintoli there, and again, this is irrelevant to anyone that wasn't watching BT Sport and outside of the UK. But Jesus Christ, what was going on with Sylvain Guintoli's trouser choice all weekend?
I'm not
really
sure.
The man looked like he'd fallen out of like the mid to late 90s. Like, it was a very strange look.
I think he's hit the midlife crisis. I really do.
He's got his wife. He's got his 6 kids or however many he's got. He's made all the money in the world, and now he's having a midlife crisis.
Yeah, I mean, when you've done all that, what do you do for your midlife crisis? Like, I can go out and I can buy a Ducati road bike and be quite happy with it. My brand new Ducati road bike. But these guys have been riding bikes all their life. I mean, where do you go for your midlife crisis?
You get some Primark jeans.
Yeah, it did look like he just raided the wrong suitcase. He's just gone into one of the Moto3 kids' suitcase and was like, "Oh, this is what you're wearing these days." All right, happy days, off and gone.
Yeah, I sort of assumed he'd lost his luggage and had to hit a charity shop on the way to the grid. That was my assumption, because it really did tickle me. I like Sylvain Guintoli a lot, but he's just the choice of trousers all weekend was not his best look.
No, bless him.
Anyway,
let's move off quick. Before
real anyone in the paddock whose opinion actually matters.
Yeah, we'll try to make friends
into our review. Right, Steve, then this is the normal drill here, man. We're going to go through the manufacturers one by one in the order that we have decided how well they performed in the race.
Yes.
So this felt pretty easy as the first choice, Steve. The factory that performed worse all weekend. And I mean, normally, actually, in at least the last year or so, when we've been talking about the last factory, we've been like, oh, you know what? It's so tight now. Like, it's so close. Like, yeah, they're the worst, but that doesn't mean they're bad. But fuck, KTM were bad this weekend, man.
They really did seem like they struggled everywhere. It's not just like you had one real true standout this weekend, like we're used to kind of seeing with KTM now. It felt like they all really had to put the graft in just to get what could be described as mediocre results.
Mediocre's probably being nice about it, Steve. Like, they had one standout rider all weekend and he finished 12th. Like, that kind of shows, and he really was the standout. So that kind of shows just how bad the bike performed this weekend.
Yeah, but even for him and by KTM standards, that's bad.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
is bad.
this
Exactly.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying here. His standout performance is bad.
yeah, this whole I don't know what's going on with KTM at the minute. I can't quite work it out because all of a sudden we look at last last time out, and KTM looks fantastic. Well, factory looks really
Well,
really good.
KTM have looked reasonable so far this season. To be fair, this is the biggest blip they've had so far, and it's just weird because it doesn't feel predictable. I kind of
No,
go into every weekend being like KTM can either win or barely score points this weekend.
yeah, it's kind of getting to that situation where we pretty much saw it with Yamaha a couple of years seasons ago.
Well,
Um,
even that felt predictable. There was
it, but
almost, you
it,
could say, like, this is a circuit with loads of fast sweeping corners. Yamaha are going to be good, but this is a circuit with a long, hard straight. Yamaha are going to suffer. And you could almost predict it race by race. But with KTM at the minute, man, like, fuck, I can't predict this shit.
no, I think I'd probably try to be too nice about them. I'll try to pull the positives from a bad situation.
Whereas I've had half a bottle of Bacardi by this point, mate, so I'm
And
just
just
going
don't
for
care. I'm
it.
just going for the jug, you know. You know, I'm coming in all softly, softly. I'm just going to kiss your neck before I bite it.
And I'm
just
going
got,
full vampire on this shit.
yeah, you've just gone in all bloody Tom Cruise and just bit the neck. You know,
Oh,
I
that Steve is probably quite an obscure reference, actually.
it's write in if you know that reference, and then write in. I'll give you 2 points if you can name his character.
Oh, I wouldn't be able to do the character. I could name you the author of the original book, though. So,
Ooh, 3 points if you can write us that one. Because I bet there's not many people that know that was actually a book.
no, there's probably not the sequel. Have you seen the sequel film? Actually, on that note,
No, never dared.
okay, it was fine. It was just fine.
Yeah.
Regardless, anyway, Steve,
Yes.
that was a tangent. That's sort of one of those tangents that we're going to start going on, but we're also not going to tell you what the tangent is. So let's
No,
get back
because
out.
we want 5 points if you can name all three questions.
And we've probably given you enough, you can just Google it, but that's irrelevant. First person to email in gets a shout out on the next show. Done.
There
Let's
we go.
KTM.
Aye. Shit.
Yeah, so let's go through them rider by rider, Steve. We're going to go through team by team again, and it's very easy. The Tech 3 squad are going to come first here.
Yes.
Remy Gardner qualified 22nd. He finished the race in 20th. His teammate was just one place ahead of him, regardless of what session it was. He qualified 21st. He finished the race in 19th.
Yeah.
But the two spots that each of them made up actually came from people crashing in front of them. So actually, neither one of them made up any spots.
No, these guys just circulated and just benefited from other people's mistakes, which is kind of a sad state of affairs to be finding yourself in a race.
That's how I get through life, actually, Steve, is just cruise about and wait for other people to screw it up.
Well, let's put this into context here. If that was the battle for fifth place,
oh, yeah, it'd be a different story.
It'd be a completely different story, but it still works. We would then be saying, get on the podium, just finish the race. They still
Johan
finished.
Mir won a title by doing that, to be fair.
Exactly. That someone's got to fill these spots, and it's just unfortunate as these guys. At the end of the day, they haven't crashed.
No, they haven't crashed. And the nice
thing
thing for them actually is that all of the KTMs were shit. And all of the rookies had a bad race. This is a tough track, man. Like
it
this
is a
20-corner circuit. You've got to know the lines. There's a lot you can get wrong. It's a hard race for the rookies. So these guys did finish very near the back, but the KTMs were shit and all the rookies struggled. So it kind of removes a lot of the, oh, fuck, we had a terrible weekend. Because actually, everyone that has kind of any similar story going on in MotoGP now to they do also had a bad weekend. So, you know, actually, you can come out of that being like, nah, it's not going to knock my confidence at all. Let's move on.
Yeah, exactly. There's some positives they could take away from this, but not many.
No, not many, but that's a story for KTM as a whole, isn't it, really?
That should maybe be their motto. A few positives, but not many.
Oh my God, can you imagine? What is KTM's motto at the moment?
I don't think they've got one. I think they're just waiting for us to email it in.
Oh, they must have one, man. Yamaha is the revs your heart, isn't it, or whatever it is.
Rev it.
Must also. Is it Rev it? Okay. That's going to be a really hard Google search, so I'm going to stop that now. But if anyone knows, write in. Let us know what KTM's motto is.
Aye. Anyway, factory KTM.
Yes, thank you, Steve. Moving us back there. You can tell I've had half a bottle here, Steve, because you're the one that's now guiding the show in the right direction. I like that a lot. Yeah, the factory boys then, Steve. Miguel Oliveira qualified 20th, finished the race 18th. This was a painful crash down to earth after the highs of Indonesia and what's been quite an up and down season actually for Miguel so far. But this was a painful just...
This just sums up like what is happening to KTM. Like what you just said. The high is high, the low is astronomically low. You know, it's not just like I'm finishing mid-pack, it's a bit shit. It's the front or the bloody back. Points or no points.
Yeah.
You know, it's polar opposites of what they've had. Next round, Portimao, he'll probably win it. Yeah, and then he'll come out the following
He's
round.
won it before.
Exactly. This is a potential we could be looking at. And he'll probably come out the round after that and finish 19th. Who knows? You can't, like you said, KTM have become the unpredictable. You can't, even Brad Binder, although moving it on to him slightly, we know he'll make up a shit ton of places, naturally, and we'll probably have a top 10 finish. Mm-hmm. But it's a bit hard to govern when he'll have a bad day and how bad that day will be.
Yeah, it's a bit funny. Between Miguel Oliveira and Brad Binder here, Brad qualified 17th, finished the race in 12th. Top KTM. But it's funny how their seasons are going right now. Miguel's highs are really fucking high. To be fair, Brad's high is also second place, so it's pretty high. But Miguel's lows are so much lower than Brad's, man. Like Brad Binder here is the best of the KTMs without a doubt. But outperforming Miguel Oliveira in a way I didn't expect to see this year.
No, I didn't either. What they're doing race by race is pretty similar. It is just their finishing order. Miguel is always 6-7 places lower than Brad, at least.
Unless he wins the race, then that's the weekend that Brad finishes outside the top 10. Like there's just no predicting it. It's so hard at the moment.
It is one of the hardest things to do. I don't like what's happening with KTM at the minute at all. I wish they were easier to read. I wish they had clear defining tracks, which we knew where they were going to be good, going to be bad, or we thought at least they were going to be good and bad, like we have with a Honda, or even their riders where they have a good track, like Portimao, we could say is going to be a fantastic track for Miguel. But look what happened there last year. Won the first race, and then all of a sudden, the next one out, you're absolutely nowhere. You can't write it. We come into this thinking, right, this should be a Miguel Oliveira track. I'll put him in my dream team next week. And he's probably going to be at the back. You just can't. Every single person, even the pro journos, are saying how bad this season has become to predict. And a lot of the time, like the BT Sport guys were talking about, have we now hit that pinnacle? Are we at the top? Are we no longer on the way up? Are we now riding this plateau at the top of the wave? And I really think
I agree, and that plateau for competitiveness now, because let's face it, man, in the last 2 years, all 6 factories have won races. Most riders have been on the podium. There's just been so much going on. My thing with KTM at the minute, Steve, I'm finding them quite a frustrating factory, and I'm actually finding them more frustrating than when you and I, and especially me, just used to fucking go on constantly at Aprilia. I was so fed up with Aprilia always being last. I think I'm actually more fed up with KTM right now because it's so tough, because they've got so much potential, and then they, for some reason, somehow something goes wrong and it's just fucked. They just fuck an entire weekend, but they have the potential to win. At least when Aprilia were fucking every weekend, that was their pinnacle. They couldn't get any higher. But KTM, we know have the potential, and it's so annoying.
Yeah, you're very right. And like when we used to really rant about Aprilia, we know they'd be last and second from last, always, every weekend. And it just became a bugbear because they've been doing it for so long. We wanted them to just suddenly improve. Where KTM have come out, done a fucking stellar job with their bike and their entire setup. And we know are proven race winners. But it has got to be uh, an aligning of the stars. It's got to be such precision, pinpoint, perfect conditions that just to allow them to win. And, and that means it is nearly impossible to read.
And
As
no one can decide when those precise conditions are. No one actually knows
no one's
what
got
it
a
is that
clue.
makes the KTM a race winner. It just sort of happens sometimes.
Yeah, I don't think they've got any clue either. I think they just turn up on a Friday. You're like, oh fucking hell, what's going to happen now? Um, Send the guys out. The blokes probably go out the back to try and calm down the nerves down, and then come back in and like, we're second. Oh, it's going to be a good weekend, and you know straight away. Friday, FP1, we're second. It's going to be a banging weekend. Full on weekend. It comes around Friday, FP1. We're 22nd. Right, bring out the spares.
Yeah,
It's going to be a bad weekend. It's almost instant, and you can gauge it on by that first FP1 result. It could be good, it's going to be bad.
that's
Who
probably
knows?
fair for KTM
Yeah.
right now.
Anyway, let's
Right then,
move it off
Steve.
of KTM.
Yeah, we could be here all day. We could be
We're
for hours,
doing
so
what
we're
we
not
used to
going
do
to.
with Aprilia, saying how we talk about it quickly, and because it annoys us, we're going to rant about them.
That's
And this
exactly what
becomes
we've done.
the 45-minute rant about a subject that we say we're never going to talk about because it pisses us off.
Oh, mate, I'm sorry. I've just lost all my words because that is so true that I just almost cried with laughter, actually, then, Steve, because that is how true that is.
Yeah.
We've just done exactly what we used to get angry at ourselves for doing. So, Steve, I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive into Yamaha and we're going to go through the rest of the MotoGP factories.
Let's go for it, buddy.
Okay, good stuff, guys. Apologies for our rant there. Bear with us just one moment and we will be right back with you. Thank you for bearing with us. We are back. We're here. We've recovered from our rant. The bladders are empty. Drinks are sort of refilled, but I've got, Steve, maybe an inch of Coke left in here and quite a lot more Bacardi. So I'm going to be on Coke diluted with Bacardi very soon, as opposed to
I think we should
Bacardi
probably
diluted with
knock
Coke.
this show along. Because by the time we get to the end, this could be
I'm going to
interesting.
pour now, Steve. I'll pour my last drink now, and hopefully by the time we're done, I can still say my own name, and let alone the name of the show, eh?
All right, we'll give it a badge.
So Yamaha it is, Steve. Let's dive in, my friend. The satellite team are the easiest ones to talk about here, in a way. So we'll start with Darren Binder. Very easy here. Qualified 22nd, qualified 24th, finished the race 22nd.
Yes.
A bad weekend. Stone last, over 100 seconds back off the win in the end. Did he have a crash? Did he crash and remount? Because I
don't
watched the race
think he
twice, and I
did.
think I might have missed this if he did.
No, I don't think he did. I think just the just a bad weekend for him. The sheer pace of that Yamaha down the back straight, just getting outpaced by everything else. Plus the fact that I don't think he got on too well with his track at all.
And all the rookies struggled.
Yeah, so I think you couple all that together, he is just unfortunate that it was just not his weekend. Because we know he could do better.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. And it's good that he's had this bad weekend, because I think this is the bad weekend that I expect him to have every week.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of other people expect him to be having every week. So now he's had that bad weekend. Hopefully he can come from this, he can recover. And he's also can take solace in the fact that all of the rookies fucking sucked this weekend. This is a hard track to learn.
It's not an easy one. It's hard to master unless you're Marquez. So, like you say, they all suffered. That's a little something to take away from it. So, I don't think he should be too hard on himself. I think, he should expect to have a race or two like this year. And this is probably, in some ways, a good track to have it at.
Yep, I agree completely with that. His teammate then, Steve, Andrea Dovizioso, also didn't have the best of weekends, to be fair. He qualified 15th. He finished the race in 15th. Scored a point. But this race finish is controversial because actually on the track he finished behind Franco Morbidelli. He finished 16th on track. Franco Morbidelli got docked a place for running wide and hitting the green on the final lap. And then the controversy breaks harder here because Morbidelli hit the green, ran wide, was overtaken by Dovi because he ran wide, and then overtook Dovi again later in the lap. So
Yeah.
retook 15th place legitimately. But because he'd hit the green on the final lap, and the rulebook is very clear on this, you lose a spot. So it's broken a lot of controversy here, because actually you can sort of see it from Frankie's point of view here. He retook that place legitimately. Maybe he should be in 15th overall, but that's not how this played out.
No, it's just going down the road that simply he went across the green. It was on the last lap, I believe.
Yeah, it was on the final lap, yeah, because that's the only time you will automatically get knocked back a space at the end.
Yeah, so it's just how it is. You got on the green, last lap, you get knocked back. Irregardless of what happens after that, you're going backwards.
It's an interesting caveat, though, isn't it? Because this is one of the few times, actually, where I think I might be on Morbidelli's side. I'm very much usually, the rules are black and white. Everyone's playing by the same rules. But I'd never considered this scenario where you can screw your lap at the start, lose the spot, and then legitimately take it back later on circuit. Like, that becomes a very hard rule, unless they just have to now clarify within the rules what happened to Frankie is what's going to happen to anyone that hits the green on the last track.
Yeah, I think that has probably already been clarified. It's written in there. It's just, this is one of the few examples that we get to see of it on track. So this is just Frankie, unfortunately, hitting that stiff line and just coming under the teacher's paddle.
Yeah, unfortunately, Frankie had to be the guy that tested the rule. And
he could have pushed it. Yeah, could have got a point out of 15th. But unfortunately, in some ways, it's also good that the rule book's being enforced.
Yeah, exactly. That's a fair point, actually, Steve. I'll give you that.
Yeah, so I can see it for both sides. I think I am completely on the fence. I think he's got the place back.
That's where I sit for most problems, Steve, on the fence. I'm just on the fence.
I think I could probably sit here and swing an argument for both sides. So I'm just going to toe it down the middle and say, shit happens.
I like that a lot, Steve. That's a good response, my friend. Let's move on to the factory boys then, shall we?
Let's do it.
Frankie Morbidelli then, Steve, had a terrible fucking weekend here. Qualified 19th, finished the race 16th overall. Like we say, was 15th across the line, got doctor place for exceeding track limits. But something isn't gelling between Frankie and Yamaha right now, is it?
No, this boy is off, mate. I guarantee you this now. Contract signing time is coming round. This guy ain't staying.
No, I think Frankie's got another year. I think he's one of the few riders that whose contract isn't ending this year. He's got another year with Yamaha, I'm sure.
I think he has, but I think we're going to see a break.
Oh my God, Nat. No chance. He's not doing that badly. No. Oh my God. There's Steve's epic prediction for the year.
I think we're going to see a break. I think this could be the upset. I think this could be...
Oh my God. Does Top Rack take that ride then?
Exactly. I just don't think... he finished runner-up 2 years ago. And since then, yes, he's had that injury, but something has not gone well. It's like you said in the show notes, Frankie is not gelling with the Yamaha. And that's a fact.
Yeah, I think you're right, because at Petronas, Frankie, on his good days, was a match for Quartararo, could best Quartararo on his good days. He could beat him. But Jesus, when's the last time this cunt had a good day?
2019.
I think that answers the question, doesn't it? 2019, man. There's something that's not right there. Frankie is an astounding rider. He's a Moto2 champ. We've seen him take multiple MotoGP wins. But something's not working here.
No. I think I can't put my finger on what it is at all. The two just are not working. And I think for both, they need to part ways.
You're already saying then he's part ways. Jeez, Steve, you've got a strong opinion on this one, my friend.
I have. I don't think it's going to get any better. I really don't. Unless something magical happens. Unless, he could just find something. But when you look at what his teammate's doing, he's mixing it up with Dovi. That shouldn't be happening. That should not be happening.
They are on the same bike, to be fair.
They are. But you've also got your teammate. I know it happens elsewhere through other teams. But you've also got your teammate who's just so far ahead of you.
Uh-huh.
Who you can beat. And
you can beat when you're having a good day. But geez, how do I have a good day at this point?
Yeah, it's like, when is that good day going to come?
Yeah.
You don't finish second in the championship and then be on what should be a better bike 2 years later for the same team and then suddenly be languishing down here.
Yeah, it's certainly not ideal for Frankie at the moment, and it's going to be
No,
interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out for him.
yeah, I think it's going to be a tough one to call, but I honestly think we're going to see a part in other ways.
Wow, I would be very surprised, but we'll wait and see.
You wait.
Okay, Fabio Quartararo then, Steve. Also someone that could be parting ways with Yamaha at the end of the year if you believe the rumours right now. And I ain't going to dive too much into that. We might talk about that next week because we've got a lot of shit to cover in this show regardless. But Fabio qualified 6th, finished the race in 7th. He had that big crash in Q2 and had to run like an absolute fucking demon to get back to his spare bike. He's on the back of the Marshall scooter. He's waving the Marshall to go faster. It was fun to watch. It almost felt like watching the Grand National.
It was like a wacky race. You see him getting that bike rider to overtake people. Like, come on! He's like, I could do this faster. Get on the back.
It was really good to watch. And I'm sure he wanted to. I'm sure there's very good insurance reasons as to why a MotoGP rider is not allowed to crash their MotoGP bike, get on a scooter, get back to the garage, and then ride a MotoGP bike again. I'm sure there are reasons as to why it's always someone giving them a ride.
It will probably be the fact that they will put that poor bastard on the back of the bike. And then
I wouldn't get on the back of the bike, mate. If it was my bike, I'd be like, he can fucking have it. He can just take my bike. I don't want to be on it. I'll pick it up from the garage later.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys feel safe enough when that bike's strapped in the back of a trailer and have a little cheeky sit on it. We've seen that many a times, or they'll take a cheeky selfie in the gravel. Hey, look what I've got.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would not want to be a passenger on the back of one of these guys. Not when they've got that head on them that, like, get me back to the paddock. I want to get back out on my bike because you're going to shit yourself.
Well, that's when the service roads essentially become part of the racetrack for them.
Yeah, well, I hope there's a lot of services down those roads because you're going to need to stop.
Smashed into a little chef on the way.
Yeah, give it a courtesy wipe halfway back because you've just fucking tanked yourself.
Oh, that's so gross. Quartararo was easily the best Yamaha then. And this was actually, I think, a really good ride from him. He was properly racy every time someone got near him on the track. He had an amazing scrap with Marquez on the last few laps.
Oh, God, yeah.
But the bike seems to be struggling, man. Like, as the top Yamaha, as we say, he qualified 6th. He finished the race in 7th. And none of the other Yamahas, aside from Dovi's single point, scored a point. He's kept himself in the title fight, but he's going to need some help for it to stay that way. The Yamaha, I think, is probably letting him down right now, as well as the rest of the riders.
I think the Yamaha is letting them all down, if I'm honest. Their lack of forethought and development is really becoming apparent now. I mean, look at how fast and how quickly and how comprehensively they were getting beaten down that straight. You can't do that. You can't be a competitive top-end factory and be that far off the pace.
And I think they were losing like 12 miles an hour down the straight. Like, you could see it quite clearly. Fabio was losing 10 bike lengths to the Ducatis down the straight.
Yeah, and how many years is it that these guys have been saying power, sort it out, development? Yeah, Rossi
it's true, but let's not forget that Yamaha won the title last year, even with their riders saying we need more power. So
they did.
That becomes an interesting point there.
Yeah, they did, but at the same time, their competition was a little bit less last year.
Yeah, that's fair.
Realistically, there was probably only 2 other people who were going to challenge last year. This year so far, we got adding into that maybe an extra 3 people.
Oh, I think you've added in 2 extra teams at least this year.
Yeah,
like, it's just madness this year.
All of a sudden, there's a lot more elements in this equation. And Yamaha, unfortunately, are just the smallest number in my eyes. And there's a lot of other stronger, teams out there that are just in for the better shout. So
yeah, that's fair.
Let's not dwell too much on contracts and stuff yet, because like you say, we've got a lot to get through, but we could dive more into that next week and speculate some more.
Yeah, we certainly will do. There's a lot of silly season rumours already pinging about, but next week we'll get onto those, Steve.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff already starting to rear its head, and it's just once silly season hits properly, it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, so
wait for it.
Okay, Steve. Honda then is our next factory here.
Yes.
Start with the easy ones. Alex Marquez in my fantasy squad. I'm angry at him, but we're going to ignore that for now. He qualified 23rd, did not finish the race. Poor starting spot. Absolutely annihilated all weekend by his teammate, and then crashed out very early on in the race.
Yeah, real disappointing race for Alex. Disappointing season so far, but this one just really is going to be a blot. a big blot on his copybook. All we could do is hope that he comes back to Portimao and just at least qualifies well. Even if he doesn't have a great result, do something.
Yeah, it's been a very disappointing tenure so far for Alex Marquez at LCR, but not with Honda. His first year, I mean, he scored 2 podiums on the Repsol Honda, but since being dropped back to the LCR Honda squad, it's just not gelled for him.
No, maybe it was, I don't know, just another move, another team that hasn't quite done it. But he got to grips with the factory bike a lot quicker than this. And we know he's not on machinery that's too dissimilar. But it might just be the fact that let's call it 2%, is just enough to give him these bad results.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's on the full factory bike, isn't he? He's on a full factory bike. It's just not the same support. Yeah.
Maybe that's enough. Who knows? Because something is clearly different.
Yes, certainly.
Massively different. I just hope he can get to grips with it pretty soon.
Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed. His teammate then, Steve, Taka Nakagami. Now, Taka finished the race in 10th. Qualified in 10th, sorry. Finished the race 14th overall. There's not a lot I've got to say about Taka here. At least he got a couple of points. That's kind of where I'm at. You're coughing a lung up, Steve. That's how shocked you are about Taka just scoring a couple of points.
That one came out of nowhere as well. I've done several so far. I've had time to mute my mic, but that one just caught me by surprise.
I really thought, Steve, and the little picture I have you on my screen, because there's a lot of other shit going on, but the little picture I have, I thought you were just about to throw up. I was like, well, Jesus, this is going to be a fun spot to fill if Steve's just puking, isn't it?
Hasn't muted his mic, he's dying in the background.
Well, at that point, if you hadn't muted your mic, I'd just stop and leave you to it, to be fair. That's an easy edit job at that point.
Yeah, at least I'd be quiet. He's not quite... Oh, he's dead. Good. Carry on.
He's died. Maybe I should just phone... I'm just going to mute my mic. I'll just phone Sarah. I'll get her to come and resuscitate him, and then I'll finish the show.
Yeah, he's dead in the corner. Just stick him in the chair.
Yeah, I've got another 3.5 factories to talk about, but it's probably going to be okay. I've got the remainder of this bottle, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, we can wing it without him.
The factory team then, Steve. Let's go with Pol Espargaro first. He qualified 12th. He finished the race 13th. Jesus, I cannot read numbers today, Steve. I apologise to everyone listening.
That'd be that Bacardi.
It'll be the Bacardi, my friend. It will be. Pol Espargaro, though, he had to give way to Mark, which lost him a little bit of time, but it just still wasn't a great ride from any of the Hondas, but Pol Espargaro sort of especially.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed for this. He did make up a few spots at the start and looked a little bit racy, looked better in the race than he had done through free practice and qualifying, but then started to drop back. And like you say, he had to give way to Mark. The first time they've been to Kota on this new fangled Honda. Realistically, Marquez is a demon. I think you have to take what Marquez has done and put him in his own little factory bracket, Honda bracket, when it comes to Kota.
I think Kota, Sachsenring, and maybe Aragon just take out everything Marquez has ever done around those circuits, remove them from the statistics, and then talk about statistics without him because he's such an outlier at these circuits.
If that's the case, then Paul had a great weekend. Top Honda. It's, I don't know, average, very average for Paul. I hope this is just a track that he doesn't like, and this is just a mid-pack finish for him.
Yeah, but when you look at the rest of the Hondas, to be fair, maybe it's just a track Honda doesn't like now, but it's just Marc Marquez just being the demon that he is that is managing to force this bike around this circuit.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Let's move it on to Marquez. Let's talk about him then. So, qualified 9th, finished the race in 6th. After what can only be described as probably the worst start of a race I've ever seen.
Certainly. I mean, to be fair, I think Marquez had a banging race except for the first 20 seconds, and that fucked his entire race from there. But even from there, it was an amazing recovery. So he's coming off the line. Something weird happened. It's a technical issue. Honda are saying they are investigating, but they more or less know what is going on here. It felt to start with like he hit the pit limiter and his bike just wasn't getting up to speed, but that clearly wasn't happening because it wasn't bouncing off a limiter. There was just no revs.
No, don't know what happened. He said a little bit about he was getting a weird message on the dash, but nothing's been officially said yet as far as I'm aware.
So there has been an official announcement. He was getting messages and an alarm was going off for the entire race. We don't know what that alarm was, but he had an alarm on his bike that was leading from the moment like he lined up on the grid for the entire race. There was something wrong with his bike. There was an alarm going off, and that is going to be that is going to be the cause of whatever the fuck that start was.
See, I find that a bit strange because if there's an alarm going off, normally that means there's a fault with the bike, which normally the team will pull you in because they're not going to risk the bike. They've only got X amount of engines. If that's an engine problem, that's basically an engine fucked. If it's an electronic issue, could be risking a crash, big crash. Coat is a fast track. If he throws that over the top and bangs his head, he's out again.
Yeah, that's fair. Unless they knew, there's not much ship-to-shore radio, to be fair, going on with MotoGP. Is there? I don't know. Is there any live telemetry going from the bikes to the pit lane? I don't think there is.
Don't think that knows, but bikes. I think the Honda will be able to tell exactly what that problem is from their end. So they both get the same signal going out, don't they?
So would Honda have known at the time? Is what I'm saying. Because if not, this was all Mark's decision just to ignore the alarm. And to be fair to Mark, Steve, I'm sure you're with me here. I've ignored warning lights on my car before because there's somewhere I need to be. Like, if I'm involved in a race that I think I can win, I'm going to ignore all the fucking alarms until that bike stops working.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the team can see or not, but he will know. He will know what the bike feels like, be able to hear it. But yeah, I am complete with you. I have punched the light out on the dash just to get to my journey. With a pen, that sign's come up. I'm like, I don't want to look at you, so I've put the pointy bit of the pen on the dash and I've just punched it.
You're like fucking gone. Check engine, check you, pal. Douche.
Yeah, light gone. And we're off. Happy days. Dashboard's Christmas tree free. Happy motoring. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. It's a bad idea.
I mean, it's not sensible advice actually coming from the podcast right now, so ignore that advice.
Yeah. Put a bit of tape over it because that way you don't break your dash screen.
Exactly, and once you fix it, you can just pull tape off and your job done.
Yeah, exactly. Ignore everything I just said. Edit that bit out. All in
all, without the terrible start, Steve, Marquez had the pace to win this race, even from ninth place on the grid.
Yeah, I mean, this guy carved. He was a stone cold last at
going. I don't think he was ever stone last. I think he was like the second to last position because the shot we saw of him where it looked like he was last, there was one of the Tech 3 KTMs behind him.
There was
someone was there. He ever scored last, but Jesus, like he was in like 23rd. Like
he was down there.
Be an easy race.
Not a position where he normally finds himself. But yeah, what he did throughout this race was just a Marquez-esque domination, where he is the standout of this race, I'm sure. Apart from the winner, he just did what he does. He just had the pace, managed, drove past people, and just shows why he is still unstoppable on his day, even with his injuries. We were told before the race that his doctors told him that his risk of getting this diplopa back again are going to be no different tomorrow to 5 years. It's your choice. And I'm so glad that he made the choice to race, and he will continue racing because this just showed what he could do.
And he really was incredible, man. Like, this was that race where we really saw the quote-unquote old Marquez back. He's going sideways. He's sliding the bike around the corners. He's doing these amazing handbrake turns. He's getting it up on the front wheel and the back wheel skipping out.
Oh, there were times when he was smoking that back tyre. Going into some of these corners, he looked insane.
But the really good thing was, and something I really enjoyed watching, was this wasn't Argentina 2018. This wasn't I'm stuck behind a slower rider, I'm just going to barge them out of the way. It was generally, there were a couple of big moments. There was one big moment trying to pass Maverick Vinales and Brad Binder at the same time, where it was whoa, that's scary. But it was generally a very clean race from Marc Marquez here.
It was
nice to see him be properly on the pace and be clean while carving through the field. And it really made me feel quite good about maybe not his entire season. I still think maybe there's too much of a hole now for him to recover. But if any rider can recover it, it's Marc Marquez. But it made me feel good, like he's going to get wins. He's going to get podiums. He's going to score very highly in the championship by the end of the year.
Oh, absolutely. I think this guy's had a bit of sensible injected into him. You know, in times
We
gone
all need to
past,
buy some of that shit, mate.
sometimes, yeah, we really need a shot of sensible. Um, but yeah, in the past, we've seen this guy where he would have been elbowing people out of the way, barging something out of like a video game. He had the opportunity to do that. In fact, he did overshot it. He braked incredibly late, didn't he? And won into turn two or
I think
turn
it was into
10.
turn one. It was into
Yeah,
turn one, and that was that Brad Binder Maverick Vinales overtake where he very nearly wiped the two of them out.
it was close, but that was just a late braking maneuver. But even then, Rush of Blood, he then brought it back, and every overtake looked clean. If he's going to take that sensibleness to the rest of the races and make the right decisions, we're not going to see the argy bargy, elbows out fighting Marquez. We're going to see the calculated, technical side of Marquez that we haven't really seen before.
I think we have seen it before, but certainly not very recently because he's just been. Obviously, he's been all or nothing in the last couple of years, but we've seen a more measured Marquez in the past. 2016, we saw a very measured Marquez after he crashed his brains out in 2015, which was the only reason he didn't win in the championship. We have seen a measured, gentle Marquez before. 2019, we saw it, but he was just so much better than everyone else that even the gentle Marquez was finishing first or second in every race.
Exactly. It's, I don't know. We're going to have to just sit back now and enjoy the rest of the season and see what version of him we are going to get.
Steve, this season has been so insane so far. I can see no possible future in which I don't sit back and enjoy the rest of this season.
Exactly. It's just going to be good. And he didn't crash, so we're going to have him at Portimao.
Yeah, which is a weird thing. Like Mark is going to be, but 2 races in a row, we're going to see Marc Marquez.
Yeah. Every race now, it's like, did he crash? No. Fantastic.
We'll see him next week. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Going for another one. Happy days. Yeah. All in all, Honda, average. Marquez, fantastic.
Yep, I agree completely. Aprilia is our next factory then, Steve.
Yes, buddy.
Average pretty much across the board, actually, I think, for Aprilia. I don't think we're going to spend much time talking about them.
No.
Maverick Vinales qualified 12th. He finished the race in 10th. His teammate, Aleix Espargaro, qualified 13th, finished in 11th. So Maverick here beat his teammate, which is pretty important with that inter-team dynamic, especially considering Espargaro just went and won a fucking race. And managed to score, 10th place. What's that, 5 or 6 points? 6 points. That's a reasonable haul.
Yeah, you didn't do. Oh, excuse me. Yawn at the same time.
That was a big yawn. You sounded like your voice was breaking, Steve. I was like, this is a podcast with prepubescent Steve here all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's good. I was just thinking about like free practice one. I was like, oh yeah, my mind was straight, and I was like, I'm just gonna have a little yawn here. Tim's talking, and then you stopped. I was like, shit, my time to talk.
And then I threw the ball to you, and you just weren't ready for it. I can only apologise, Steve. That's probably my bad. I didn't read the room.
Dude, that's my bad. Yeah, I was a little more disappointed with Aprilia because during FP1 they looked really good. They both looked really good, but their weekend kind of, although not bad, 10th and 11th, it's still respectable finishes. Slightly less so for Aleix after his first win last time out. But yeah, their weekend kind of petered away as it got closer to the race.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying about Aleix there is that I think a lot of us, I certainly expected this, and I think most of us did, is from the back of his win, we sort of expected him to come out swinging. He's going to hit Texas, he's going to go. But actually, this result, 11th place, is pretty true to form for his Texas results. He's never enjoyed Texas. He's been very bad here in the past, so it's not actually that much of a surprise.
No, this is not a bad result for him. Good result for Mav. First time beating his teammate. Awesome.
I don't think it's the first time, but it's first time this year.
Yeah, first time this year, yes. But yeah, just overall, not bad. Not bad. If they can just now capitalise on this, have some more good results in FP1, they're standing themselves in good stead. Already had their first win, so...
Yeah, that's certainly true. I'm with you. And to be fair, we know this is a bad track for Aleix. And if Maverick scored a 10th here, we know that the bike actually wasn't terrible around here. And when you look at it on average, I don't know, Aleix is 4 or 5 places ahead of Mav averagely. So, across the season, this probably actually would be a 5th place for Aleix. And we're all going to be like, fuck, Aleix, isn't he doing amazing things on that Aprilia? It's just a bad circuit for the guy.
Exactly. In some ways, it's probably a bad track to have his first win at and then follow it at Kota because it's going to be high, low.
Yeah, quite.
Chances of following up, my prediction of him getting on the podium was probably very oversight, but rush of blood after his first win. But
We both predicted him for the podium, Steve. I wouldn't worry about it at all,
yeah,
my friend.
no, a lot of other people did as well, so I feel justified.
Quite. Let's move on to Suzuki then, Steve. The next
Let's get
squad
there.
here. Great weekend for Suzuki,
Yeah.
I think. Full stop. Like, this was a banger. Suzuki are back. Is it feeling like 2020? I don't know. If you talk to Johan Mir, yes, he's telling you it feels like 2020. I ain't convinced at this point, but I also wasn't convinced until we were 9 races into 2020, and that was a 14 race season. So, there's some time to go, but if Mir and Rins are feeling it, it could be another Suzuki year, man.
I think so. So far this year, they have looked just honest and good. Every time out, Rins has just started to shock me. He started to finish races.
Yeah,
Mir
it's
has
been a
started
weird
to
thing.
be,
It's hard to just think of Rins as like consistently finishing. I feel a bit uncomfortable the fact he keeps finishing, but I'm keeping him in my fantasy squad and it upsets me.
yeah. Every time one of the commentators said, "Oh, there's someone down the gravel," I'm like, it's gonna be Rins.
Yeah,
Um,
every time.
it's gonna be Rins because we're so used to seeing it. All of a sudden, we get this guy who finishes races. I'm like, hang on, this isn't him. And
Yeah.
then his teammates just going back to being Mr. Ultra consistent. I was like, well, hang on, this doesn't feel like him anymore. And all of a sudden, the Suzukis are just both looking like a pungent threat.
Yeah, it's looking very good. So Johan Mir qualified 8th in this race. He finished in 4th though, so it was a very Suzuki-esque qualifying here. Not quite in the front 2 rows, but clearly had decent race pace. However, he was beaten by his teammate.
He was.
Alex Rins qualified 7th, finished 2nd in the race, Steve. He got through
That's so
Q1
good.
to get to that 7th place qualifying, and looked good throughout qualifying after Q1.
Yeah, he did. He took the hard road, but it doesn't matter how you get to the finish line, just finish. Um, but as soon as he got through that quali one, he just looked better.
Yeah.
He looked better, and then come race day, this guy looked like a completely different rider to me.
Honestly,
Anyway,
mate, he really had the pace, and he looked like he had the pace for the weekend. And I thought he would going into this, but I didn't expect it to be this good. I thought
No.
during the race, obviously qualifying back in 7th, he got stuck behind some Ducatis, he got stuck behind Quartararo, and I was convinced that he was going to get frustrated. He knew he was going to be faster, and he'd try and make a move, he'd lose the front, he'd crash. I was convinced that was going to happen.
That's
And do you
pretty
know
much what I thought.
He completely proved this all wrong, Steve, because he just nailed it. He had a few what were probably a bit over-optimistic passes, but eventually he made those passes stick, scored 2nd place in the end, and it was just a cracking result.
It was really good for him, off the back of a 3rd place. 2 good podiums on the bounce. There's only 1 step further up to go. So, I don't know, just the whole weekend for him feels like a real corner turner. After last week, I was like, this could just be a one-off. To back that up with a 2nd place on a track where, all right, he's won before, but I also did expect him to crash just because it is so fast. The first thing I thought of was, if he gets ahead of Mir, he's simply going to crash.
Because there's no way, judging by the last few years, that if Rins is ahead of Mir, it means Rins is overriding the bike. There's no
Exactly.
way Rins is just finding more from the bike. But geez, do you know what, Steve? This year, it looks like Rins might be finding more from that bike.
It really does. It just suddenly feels like he has got it dialed in. He's found that 1% setting that he needed. And this is what we now have always said that he is capable of doing. So hopefully this is it. Hopefully he's just settled him down. 2 good results. Hopefully he's going to come back at Portimao and just go, right, breathe, be consistent, finish the race, finish strong. And just basically I think all we can hope to do, because there's still time for him to become Alex Bins again.
Oh, don't even, Steve. I'm getting big and I'm getting bolshy on Rins for this year. I predicted him as my 2021 champion. I did not predict him as my champion for 2022. But Jesus, if he gets it this year, I'm just going to steal the sound clips from the prediction show for 2021 and I'm just going to skip him across. And I'm going to pretend that I predicted it for this year. I'll be like, I was a year out of date. My bad.
Edit those in, just do a seamless link. Just one of our classics, just like sledgehammer splice. So you cannot, yes, you can't hear it. It just hits you like a bus.
Quite exactly. But yeah, the whole weekend cracking from Suzuki, and I think this is
really
a year that Suzuki I'm looking at just improving further and further. And the mad thing is, Steve, we're now 4 races into the year. We're about to talk about Ducati, and I'm just going to say now there's been 3 different winners this year. They've all been on European bikes, Steve. This is absolute madness for the series. Last week, after the last race, which was last week actually, I was listening to, I think it was the Race podcast, and they were saying that there has not been a time in MotoGP that 3 different European manufacturers have won the first 3 races of the year since 1952, Steve. This is an unprecedented, 70 years on. We're talking about this is just the era of MotoGP we're living in right now is just so unprecedented. It's an incredible time to be alive and to be enjoying this sport.
Oh, absolutely. We've been saying it for a few years now, but it really is that time. All of a sudden we are right in the pinnacle where we've got, every single manufacturer is competitive. Every single person on there is a proven winner. And that's never happened before.
No, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I started watching MotoGP in 2011. Was it 2011 I started watching? Yeah, it was 2011. 2011 is when I started watching MotoGP. You were watching the Premier Class motorcycle racing before that, and as it became MotoGP. But I feel like that I've loved the sport from that moment I first started watching it. And I'm now living in and I dealt with a few years of shit to reach this amazing point we've got now. Oh my God, the fans that have been watching this sport for longer than me dealt with decades of shit racing, and they've just got to this point where their loyalty has been paid off because fuck, what a product MotoGP is now.
Exactly. Can you imagine if this series had folded when we all thought it would do, like 2012, 2013?
Exactly. 14 bikes were starting sub races, mate. You got points just by starting a race.
Exactly. It was nuts. It wasn't many, granted. It was only a few for one season. But yeah, if I start, I get a point. Happy days.
Exactly.
I don't even want to think about it. What could have been. So let's just leave
MotoGP's it's in an amazing place now. And Ducati really are the last factory we're here to talk about, Steve. So let's dive into those.
Let's talk about them before we get on a very downer about MotoGP folding.
We were chatting before we started the show, Steve, you and I. We were talking about how it's been quite hard to rank the factories this year. Ugh. I've found the last 3 places, the 6th, 5th, 4th spots, are very easy to talk about. It's the next 3 are hard. Who is the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd best? And it's only hard because Ducati have all of the bikes in the world, which means they're always up at the front. So it's hard to distinguish. Ducati here scored 2 podiums if you look at all their riders for this race. 2 of the Ducati riders were on the podium, which sort of makes them the best factory. But then you look back and they had riders finishing 17th, they had riders that didn't finish the race, they had riders finishing in 21st, so it makes it very hard to actually judge. But I'm going on where their podiums are. I'm going on their high point rather than their low.
Yeah, I think that's the way you've got to go for. Ducati are almost becoming their own little sub-branch that we need to talk about because they are so spread out.
Oh God, Steve, we're going to end up with a Wednesday show for the rest
Ducati.
Of the grid, and then we'll have a Thursday show just for Ducati. We're not going to do that, actually.
No,
out there now.
No, but we could almost have the Tricolor Cup, in which we just have full of Ducati manufactured riders that are just. Yeah, there's so many of them that we can't possibly fit them all into any other part of the show apart from first.
No, exactly. But we're going to try to talk about them quickly, Steve. And actually, considering the result of the race, it's hard to know where to start. I think we start with the VR46 Ducatis on this one.
Yeah, let's do that because they are the lowest ranking.
Exactly. So we'll start with their rookie first in Marco Bezzecchi here. He qualified 16th. He did not finish the race. He had that early crash, which he then remounted from, but ended up with a meatball flag because he had a technical fault. His bike was pissing out fucking smoke and everyone's panicking. Shit, that could be oil. Let's just flag him. Let's get him off the grid now.
Yeah, I think just because he dropped it, he had some oil make its way to the top of the engine. So it was just getting burnt off. There was nothing hitting the wheel. But for safety, meatball him, get him off the track just in case.
Yeah, he was quite upset. Actually, it turned out to have
Yeah,
been meatball flag because he was that exact. He said exactly what you just said. Well, there wasn't anything on the wheel. It wasn't dangerous. It was just smoking. But from an outside
it's
point of view, race
safety.
direction don't know. Like
No,
it's better to just. He just crashed. He was barely in the points when he crashed. Just get rid of him from the race to make sure everyone else is okay. Like, that's
yeah,
fine. I've got absolutely no problem with race direction's decision here, and I think it's just an example of someone being a bit upset because they feel like they feel like they have been shit on a little. But I think it's fine.
no, yeah, I completely agree. I think this is absolutely fine. But he disagreed. So
Yeah, but that's fine. It's his prerogative, mate. And actually, his voice has got much more weight and power than mine, so that's fine.
yes.
His teammate in Luca Marini then, Steve, qualified 11th, not the worst
Mm,
qualifying position. Finished the race 17th, not a good race for Luca here, man. I'm a little disappointed with his progress so far this year.
yeah, me too. Finishing 11th, I was quite optimistic for him. Um, because he looked good mid pack. But
Well,
if you're gonna,
qualifying 11th, yeah.
yeah, qualified 11th. Sorry.
Yeah.
But racing to 17th. If he's going to go backwards with people falling in front of him, you need to have a damn good reason for that. And this
Yeah,
guy just seemed to
exactly.
drop back for no real apparent reason. Yes, he ran wide at a few corners, but he never dropped it. So, all
Yeah.
in
I'm going
all,
to put it out there, Steve. I think if Luca Marini wasn't Valentino Rossi's brother, we would maybe be asking whether he's going to have a ride next year.
I think at this point, with Rossi being a now team owner, I think him being his brother, if he doesn't start producing good results, I think he'd be gone anyway.
Not at the end of this year, though. I think you'd give him another year out of brotherly leniency at this point.
Yeah, I think it could be the following year that he's gone, but I don't think once he really starts becoming a bit of a fly in the ointment, I think he'll just be ousted pretty damn quick.
We'll see what happens on that one. I think you and I have a different idea of what's going to happen, but we're going to wait to see how that plays out. I think he's going to
I
drag on. You think he'll be booted. We'll see what happens.
I think he'll be booted eventually.
Next, then, Steve, it's still hard with the Ducatis, isn't it? So
Well, we
let's
could
go
go.
for the Pramac boys.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could go the other way and then just blow it all out of the window. But yeah, let's do this.
We're going to go the Pramac boys, Steve. Okay,
Mm.
so Zarco qualified fourth, which was one of the. I mean, we haven't mentioned this yet, but Ducati scored a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in qualifying. They scored the top 5 spots in qualifying. Ducati looked dominant over one lap pace.
Oh God, yeah, they're just flying lap pace was incredible, and to dominate the top 5 spots. When the hell has that ever happened? So
Never. This is
yeah,
literally the first time.
yeah, everyone was like, right, who in my dream team is Ducati based? And if you had any of them, you were stoked. You were like, fuck yes, it's gonna be amazing.
Uh-huh.
But come race day,
Yes,
for the
race day
Pramac
things
boys,
changed a little.
yeah, I don't really know what happened. Somebody went into, I don't know, the Pramac garage and just changed something. Just changed their leaded for unleaded. Um, something.
E10 for E15, like it all
Yeah,
just fell apart at that point.
it's a bizarre situation. So Zarco, like I say, qualified fourth, raced to ninth. His teammate, on the other hand, Jorge Martin, qualified first, raced to eighth.
Yeah, it was a bad race from Martin, especially here. I was
Yeah,
disappointed with Zarco's performance. I assumed he'd be fighting for the podium, but Jorge Martin's performance during the race, like something went wrong here. He looked great in the early stages, man. He had a nice battle with Miller over those first couple of laps, and then as the race progressed, he had this big drop off, big drop off, man. From like the last 9 laps, he dropped from podium for contention down to 8th place. It was a huge drop off.
yeah. I don't know where he cooked his tires or what happened, but his pace just dropped. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, like you said, and you amusingly said in the show notes, fighting for the podium with 8,000 other Ducatis.
There's a lot of Ducatis on the grid, Steve,
There's
and
a
all I
lot
could
of
think was the Vegeta meme of the over 8,000 thing going on here. That's just all I could think when I think of the Ducatis these days.
yeah. Whatever happened, very very disappointing for Zarco. I suppose the only solace for this is he only dropped 5 places, whereas teammate dropped 7.
That's a fair point. Okay, there is that.
That I was just looking at. I was thinking, think of a positive, think of positive, think of positive. At least he didn't drop as far as your teammate.
And Luca Marini, who's on the exactly the same bike, actually dropped 6 places. So
Yeah,
really, Zarco was the best of the full GP 2022s.
yeah, he did turn it on. So happy days.
This is where we have the conversation, Steve. Do we talk about the
Oh,
factory squad, or do we talk about the very polarizing Grassini squad? Let's
no,
talk about the factory squad.
yeah, that's where I was going because I like the fact that our winner is not in the factory squad.
Yeah, and it's fun, and it's even more fun when you consider the implications of that. So
Yeah.
let's go with Pecco Bagnaia first. Everyone's favourite for the season, Steve. My favourite. I think he was your favourite. This
He
guy
was.
was the one we thought was going to come out swinging, and maybe he will. There's 17 more races to go this year. There's a lot of racing left ahead of us, but Pecco Bagnaia qualified 3rd and finished this race in 5th. I think this is a good result, Steve, but I'm a bit torn on it. He was beaten by 2 other Ducatis, one of which was his teammate Jack Miller on a GP21, and the other one was on a GP. Oh no, sorry, his teammate was on a GP22, and another one was on a year-old GP21. So it's hard for me. He looked fast, he looked racy when he was involved in the racing, but it wasn't the result we were all hoping and expecting from Pecco this year.
No, I think this is a 3-parter. I think, yes, it's a good weekend on 2 factors. And I think, no, it's a bad weekend in other factors. I think he's going in the right direction, which is a plus. You know, from the results he's had in the last 3 rounds, it's creeping up there to what we know he's capable of. I personally think the changes they made to this bike didn't suit him, and it's taken him longer to get used to it. It's a plus on the fact that he's also progressed. He's also beaten a lot of other people that I didn't think he was capable of beating at this point. So plus. It's a negative on the fact that what the hell happened to the guy who finished last 6 races, winning 4 of them from last year?
Yeah, quite.
Like he's previously said. So I would have to go with it's a good weekend for his progression. It's a stepping stone in the right direction to finish the season strong.
Yeah, I think it's a bad result, but he had a good race, which is it's a hard thing to try and explain. But yeah, I think he personally had a good race. This is a good step in the right direction for the future. Everything's looking good, but considering what we expected from him, this is a bad result.
Yeah. Considering what he's capable of,
and considering what the other Ducatis did.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So all we can hope is that come Portimao, he just improves again, and then improves again after that. That's all we could do. Is just hope that this is just the progressive curve up.
Yeah, exactly. His teammate then, Steve, in Jack Miller here. Jack Miller qualified 2nd. He finished the race in 3rd overall. This was a cracking race from Jack. A really good result. A great qualifying. And although it looked like he was probably going to win the race for maybe the first half, even this 3rd place is just brilliant for him.
Yeah, he really needed a fantastic result because people have already started talking about his seat. And let's face it, there's a lot of Ducatis and there's a lot of people who want to be in the factory team.
Yeah, certainly.
So if you're one of those 2, you've got 6 other people vying for your seat. He needed this result. So, yeah, a good result for his time at Ducati. Will he be on the bike next year? Not if someone else keeps winning.
I don't think he is going to be on the bike next year, but there's a lot of rumours flying about, Steve. We'll discuss those in next week's show because there's a lot to unpick there.
Yeah. I don't know. Good weekend. A very, very good weekend for Miller.
Yeah, I think it was a good weekend for Miller regardless. Just the podium, the great pace he had during the race, the battle at the start, and then even trying to fight off Rins towards the end was just a good race from him. Yeah,
the whole thing looked pretty damn good for him.
Yeah. The final Ducati team, then, Steve, is the Gresini Ducati squad, the first person of which is going to be very quick to get through here. Fabio Di Gianantonio. He qualified 18th. He finished the race 21st. As we will discuss, he was comprehensively outperformed by his teammate on the same bike, but that's not really fair considering this is his fourth MotoGP race. His teammate's been out there, scored podiums, scored wins actually up until this point, so it was looking very, very good. So Fabio, and much like every other rookie, just really struggled around this circuit.
Yeah, he finished. He didn't crash. He got the experience. He went home. Happy days.
Exactly. His teammate, on the other hand, Steve... Enea Bastianini. Enea Bastianini qualified fifth, and then went on to do something that we didn't expect him to do once this year, but now he's done it twice. He went on to win the fucking race, man.
It's just incredible. 4 races, 3 winners. He's the double winner.
And where did that Bastianini on a year-old Ducati has won 50% of the fucking races this year, Steve.
I know. Leading the championship. Looking strong, looking racy, where everyone else isn't looking racy. On a bike we know that performs well and doesn't need a lot of tweaking.
A bike that, as you have just said, won 4 of the last 6 races last year.
Yeah.
Which means actually, in the last 8 races, this bike has won 6 of them.
Yeah, exactly. So, sometimes improvements aren't always a good thing. If this guy carries on doing this, he's going to be MotoGP champion.
Yeah, he really will. And actually, I'd just like to say before we get any messages, out of the last 10 races, this bike has won 6 of them, not 8. My bad.
I saw a furrowed brow there. I was like, Tim's working something out. I'm just going to let him go with it. And then
Tim just made a mistake and he's getting in before anyone can write in.
Yeah, George has just gone, for fuck's sake.
He's like, I'd start the email.
Yeah, he called all the family back round the telly. Yeah, we read.
Oh, the telly, eh?
Yeah. Oh, well, whatever he's listening on radio, wireless. Could have been casting it.
But honestly, yeah, just a cracking result. Bastianini's won 2 races this year. I didn't think he was going to win one. He's gone and won 2. He's leading the championship, mate. He's 5 points ahead of second place, who's Alex Rins. And then it's Aleix Espargaro. Then it's Johan Mir and Quartararo. Like, oh my God, this year is mad in MotoGP. And I did not think 4 races in, Enea Bastianini was going to be leading the championship.
No, it's a bit mental. But that's why we love it. We can't predict. No one can predict. The entire topic of conversation through journalists, the professionals, the amateurs, us, is how hard is this sport to predict this year. And that is making it fantastic. Mm-hmm. And, you know, God knows what's going to happen next time. We're going to go to Portimao and Raul Fernandez is going to go, hello, look at me, I'm on the podium.
Can you imagine?
You know, Raul in third from an Oliveira second and who should we chuck in first? Let's go for the obscure. Let's go, I don't know, Remy Gardner.
Maverick Vinales.
Nah, I'll go Remy.
Oh, you're going Remy? Nah. Maverick is more likely to win the race than Remy, but that's not the point, Steve. That ain't what we're talking about. What we're still talking about is Enea Bastianini and just the madness that is this season. Yeah,
it is fantastic. It's so good for him. So good for the Gresini team that, you know, they broke that duck and now it's just swimming. It's fantastic. I'm so happy for him. So happy for him. And it just adds that element of spice that, you know, all of a sudden we've got this other race winner that we just don't know when he's going to come out of the woodwork because he's never performed this well before.
And we've said it before, Steve, and I'm sure we'll say it again, but between what was happening in 2011, 2012, and now, Dorna have just done an incredible job of making MotoGP this competitive, amazing, unpredictable sport that it is.
Yeah, they've just made it this championship full of champions and race winners and people that have just got so much talent. It's going to make it, in the next 5 years, the hardest championship to get into and break into. Even with all the routes that are there, you are going to have to be so ruthless to keep your seat. And it is just going to make the competitiveness of the racing insane. And
it's an interesting point. We might see like a jump in World Superbikes because there's just so much talent trying to filter into MotoGP that can't get there. that's going to move across to other series as well. Like
Yeah.
World Superbikes could also really benefit from this kind of just how much talent is in MotoGP right now.
Well, you think of it, every championship could realistically benefit, even down to the domestic ones, where let's say 10% of all these riders make it with the potential to be MotoGP riders over the next 10 years. I don't know how many people are on the grid, but you could be looking at a 5 to 25% increase, I guess, in potential talent coming through.
There's so much, mate. There's more talent available than there is bikes, and Dorna have just done an amazing job of making every bike competitive and attracting all of the talent to MotoGP right now. Like, it's just mad what's going on right now in the sport.
Yeah, it's so hard to predict. And that's why we love it, because we have absolutely no clue what's going to happen at the next round.
No, we're living through the sport's heyday, Steve, and you and I are lucky enough to have decided to make a podcast about MotoGP in the time where MotoGP is really at its greatest. Maybe if we were doing this show 10 years ago, we'd be trying to convince people to watch and be like, yeah, it is a bit boring sometimes. Yeah, only 4 guys can win, but Jesus, honestly, it's fun when it's good. Now, it's pretty easy to be like, mate, we get 9 or 10 winners a season. Like, in the first 3 races of the year, we had 9 different guys on the podium. Like, it's just, there's no predicting it. It's a very easy sport to sell now. Dorna and MotoGP have done an amazing job, mate. I cannot take anything away from them.
Oh, absolutely not. No, they're going to sit back, look at what they've created, and go just smug.
Yeah, certainly.
Just looking at themselves in the mirror, go, yep, job done, crushed it.
Exactly, my friend.
Yeah, thank you very much for what you do.
Yes, thank you. I know we've upset you in the past, but we really are on your side.
Yeah, I haven't stolen anything for a while, so yeah.
For at least a little while, so be nice to him. Anyway, Steve, before we get ourselves into any more trouble with Dorna, let's just recap our predictions, and then that's pretty much the end of the show, my friend.
Yes, we've done that. Let's move on.
So, okay, Steve, it's not as bad as you're making out here for one of us.
Ain't that great either.
I predicted a Rins win, an Aleix Espargaro second, a Quartararo third. At least Rins got on the podium is all I can say there.
Yeah.
Read us your predictions out, Steve.
I predicted a person first, second, and third.
And as it turned out, 3 people won the race. Steve wins. Moving on. Show's over. Steve's won forever.
Happy days. Yes. No, that's not true. I predicted Aleix to go on an absolute tear and finish first again. I thought Jorge Martin, and I really did have a boner for him when he put it on pole, was going to finish second. And I thought Bagnaia might break that duck and come in third, but he was fifth. So I was kind of close, but you beat me on that one. You got,
I took one of the 3. I don't know. We're not adding up scores. I think you'll probably still beat me over the season, but I'm going to take a smug victory in this one.
I would take a smug victory in this one, buddy. Yes, definitely. I would.
That then, Steve, is pretty much the end of the show, man.
We are pretty much there.
No race next weekend. There's a weekend off, so we're not going to do a preview now. We're not going to do predictions now. Next week, though, Steve, we're going to need stuff to talk about. So next week we'll run through the championship quickly of the real MotoGP Championship. We'll run through the fantasy championship that we've got going now because that's a lot of fun. I'm up into the 47th odd spot now. I'm doing okay, and I'd like to brag about that, but I'll do that next week.
Yes, you brag about that next week.
Yeah, you're doing that face that says I've not broken the top 100 yet. I know, Steve. I know what's happening. But for one time, like, this will reverse next year. So let me have this moment, and you can have the moment in the future.
You comprehensively beat me last year. I was like stone cold last.
Oh, shit, I did beat you last year. I'm doing all right. Did I beat you the first year as well? Oh,
yes.
Is it 3 out of 3? Oh,
yeah.
Steve, I'm sorry, man.
You're not sorry at all.
I love, Steve, I'm a very competitive man. I love winning, so it pleases me a little.
I know. I'm one of those people where I really don't care. I just come off the pitch and go, yeah, whatever.
Oh, I'm the other way, mate. I'm fiercely competitive. Whether it's Monopoly, Risk, whether it's the fantasy league between you and I. Like, I've already lost to the majority of the people listening to the show, Steve. So I've given up on that competition. My competition is you now, and I'm winning, and that pleases me.
Yes. Yeah, look at your place, and you're like, I've beaten you.
Yeah, I'm very excited. We're only 4 rounds in, Steve. It could all change, and then by the end of the year, I'm not even going to talk to you.
You'll be suicidal.
Okay. Anyway, Steve, that's the end of the show, my friend.
We are pretty much there.
Guys, if you've got anything you want to say to us, anything for Correction Corner, any questions at all, comments, whatever it is, you can find us on...
We are For the Love of MotoGP, and you can find us on Instagram and Twitter, or if you want to get involved, really get involved, come and join the Facebook community. It's been pretty damn good over there over the race weekend. There's been a lot of chat. Everyone's been getting involved.
Growing, man. It's
still
a
growing.
slow-growing Facebook group. Let's not lie. There's not thousands of people in there that are going to chat, but it's slowly growing, and everyone has been wonderful. So we've had the moments of controversy, but they seem to be gone. Everything's fine. Let's go with it. It's wonderful. Come and join us.
Or if you want to get in touch, drop us an email. We are For the Love of... I fucked it. George! Damn it!
Oh, Steve, it was going so well. I'm so upset for you.
Hang on. George.
I really thought that was going to be your Pennywise moment. Hello, Georgie.
That was too good. I don't like it. Anyway, reset, edit that out. George never needs to know. Here we go. We are For the Love of MotoGP, and you can find us at gmail.com.
That was terrible, mate. You fucked it then as well.
Worse.
You tried to fix it. And you know that part of me went, I might edit out that first one if he nails this. And the fact you fucked the second one means we're just going to roll with it.
Where are we? We are For the Love of MotoGP at gmail.com.
Third time's a charm, my friend.
We got there. That's that Bacardi. I can smell it.
That's you can smell it over Skype.
Mm.
That's the end of the show then, guys. We are done. Steve, I'm the one that's been drinking. Steve also has forgotten the name of the show, so it's all worked out wonderfully. No one is to blame for the cock up that is the end of the show because we're both in the same state. So thank you all very, very much for listening, guys. We will be back with you next week where we will talk.
Whoa. We spoiled people earlier on. We gave them a little teaser as to what we were doing before the show.
Look at that, Steve. That almost sounded deliberate. It almost sounded like we'd acted that in, but I'd genuinely forgotten and you had genuinely remembered, and that was smooth as fuck. So let's go with
That's
it,
where
Steve.
those brain cells went. They were remembering.
And my brain cells have just gone with the booze. But you were right, Steve. Earlier on today, you and I recorded a special episode of this show. We were speaking to Hudson Kai Cooper, who is involved in the British mini bike series.
Yep.
If you guys listen to Moto Week as well, you would have heard Wilson talk about this guy. Like, he's just a young racer that's an absolute talent and is a wonderful human being. And Steve and I were lucky enough to talk to him and his dad earlier on today.
Yep.
That show will be dropping maybe tomorrow if you're listening, Thursday, because the mini bike series is starting on Friday. So we'll try and drop that show in that time. But great interview, great chat. One of my favourite interviews yet, actually, Steve.
Yeah, that was really, really good. They're really easy to talk to. It was nice to get the spectrum of the family of a racer and someone so young, starting out so early in their racing career. And these guys, easy to talk to, nice, very open, and it is a great, great chat. Give the show a listen. Yeah,
it was a really fun one. It's just going to be half hour, 40 minutes or so. And we're just chatting about what's going on in the mini bike series, what it's like to be a young racer. And it was just a really good chat. And honestly, man, Hudson is a guy that has got his fucking head screwed on. This guy is, 9 or 10 years old. And honestly, the things he says in this interview, you would think he was in his mid-20s, early 30s. Like, this guy knows what's going on in the world. Just huge amounts of respect to him, full stop. And that show will be out a day later than this one. So it just gives you something else to listen to.
Yes. So 2 episodes from us this week, and one's a special.
Exactly. Anyway, Steve, now we've got that done. This is the end of the show, I think, unless I've missed anything else.
I lost all the brain cells, mate. Go for it. End the show.
The brain cells were done with the remembering and the screwing up of the email address. So that is us, guys. Thank you all very, very much for listening. If you've got anything you want to say at all, Steve's been through that. I'm not going to make him do it again. I was just trying to make a panic look on his face, but it didn't even appear. It was just blank. It was just not happening. No
brain
chance.
cells have run out.
But that is the end, guys. So thank you all very, very much for listening. We'll speak to you next week. Stay safe. Look after each other, guys. Goodbye.
Take care, guys.
Music is by Andrew Greenwood. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.